Amen. Amen. Y'all go ahead and have a seat. I just want to encourage you as you're getting ready. Toby and Micah were so gracious to give out. We're going to use these tonight. And so we just need one per family. It's not a must, but it definitely will be a resource for you tonight and as you move forward out of here after tonight. And so this is a Goby School Parent Workshop book. And so if you want one, they were gracious, Toby and Micah, to donate the first 50. And so if you're one of the first 50 families in here, you got one for free. So you might want to give them, what's up about that, okay? But if you would like one, they're $5. And you can just jump right out here with Rochelle or Anna and grab one of those real quick. And he'll go over that with us as we go through this workshop here in just a minute. So I'm going to introduce Toby to come up. I know you know him from this morning, but I just wanted to give kind of a personal testimony. I've gotten to hear Toby speak several times, and I personally, several years back, had a panic attack and has struggled with anxiety for as long as I can remember as a kid. I didn't have all the language for it and know what it was, and it was exactly what he's talked about, where there's this isolation. One of the things I see in my life and so many others is I think the enemy, one of his major weapons is isolation. If he can make you feel alone, or like you're the only one going through it, or you're just an idiot, or you're stupid, or you're just all of that stuff, I mean, it's just where he loves to get you. And that's why we're always so big about community here in the church. It's a biblical thing. We need each other, right? And so much of what he talked about. And I can remember it was one of these things where at work, something went kind of haywire, and it just wasn't that big of a deal. But I went home, and my wife will remember this, and it'll probably break her heart again, is I came home, and I could just feel it driving home, as I'm just like ridden with the anxiety, and I didn't know what was going on. And just hearing him talk about this, I could so relate. And I come in, she's got the kids in there ready for dinner, and I was like, I just need a minute. And I went to the room, and I literally got on my hands and knees, and I'm just like, I don't know what's happening. And it was a lot of what he described today, and I was just having a panic attack. But I was afraid, because you feel like you're in this dark hole and you don't know how to get out of it, and you're not sure you can get out of it. And I've had more of them since, and you have these feelings of like, I know how to get out of it, last time, but what if this is not, what if I can't this time, and this kind of darkness. And it was scary for my wife, and it was scary for me, but you teaching this, that I've heard you before, and even hearing it today, I got weepy about it, because I remembered you were like the first person I heard share this, whereas you talked about it, I was like, that guy gets me. Like I'm not alone, and I didn't feel alone anymore. And you've just been such a resource for me and a blessing to me, and I just want to thank you for that. And I'm excited for our church family to get to hear more from you today. So I love you, man.
Hi, is that better? One of the great blessings that most people don't know this. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I'm just going to do it. I didn't leave what I was doing to do this. I didn't leave 22 and a half years of planting a church, founding a church, being a lead pastor when I left, a vibrant, moving place to do what I'm doing. I left because I felt clearly the Lord told me that my season was coming to an end. And I'm such a believer, Cody, in the biblical teaching of seasons. There is a season for everything under the sun. And when Jesus said you must be born again, a part of what he was saying is you can't step into a new season that I have for you until you're willing to leave an old season. Right? And I would have never dreamed that one of the great blessings that would come out of what God has done with Goby Ministries is just to meet some of the finest Christian leaders in America that they're not in the news, nobody's tweeting about them. Do you understand how blessed you are to have the people who lead you here? I hope you know. Yeah. And it has been the joy of my life to have dinner like Micah and I did last night, Cody and Melinda. And, not only does he have the best haircut in America, You know, he and I, we possess some of the same traits. When we sing, what we don't have in gifting, we make up for in enthusiasm. We make a joyful noise. And I know what it's like to plant a church like these two have done here and to just labor to where we are. So our job is to make their calling not a burden, but a blessing, right? So make sure you're appreciating your leaders here. All of your pastors and those who lead so well, the heroes of your staff, those who lead children's ministry, in my understanding, I think they are the heroes, frontline heroes in our churches. You're blessed here. I just want you to know, outside guy coming in, you're unbelievably blessed. And I am blessed because the two greatest honors I ever get is for a church leadership to trust me to stand on their platform and to give me an opportunity to share, and then for you to invest your time like you are tonight. And I'm believing for you that when you invest in the kingdom, God returns it tenfold into your life. So any rest you're missing tonight, God's going to multiply it in your life. Anything that you have said no to so you can say yes to this, God's going to multiply it back in your life. And I believe he wants to multiply it into your family, right? The questions I get, I mean, look, man, I've been in every kind of church in America. I've been in churches full of rich people, churches full of poor people, churches full of Democrats, churches full of Republicans, churches full of white people, churches filled with black people, churches filled with brown people. I've been in all of them. I mean, I really have over the last couple of years. Like, everybody is saying the same thing. It's not different in any demographic in our nation. This is the Chicago fire of our generation for our kids. I could, if I had time, I don't tonight, I'd talk to you about why this is different than any other time. So those of you who fight the urge to say, well, my parents never talked to me about it, you weren't raised through a pandemic. You weren't. You didn't get on a bus like my grandson did and for the first 6 months not be able to tell his mom anybody in his new first grade class because he couldn't see their faces. You weren't told every day when you got on a bus, if you touch that kid, if you get close to that kid, if you don't sit where you're supposed to sit, you could die. I'm not saying whether it should have happened or not. I'm too smart for that. I'm saying it happened. What does that do to a child's developmental? To wait for the other shoe to drop. You hear what I'm saying? I mean, college kids, I was telling Cody this morning, I know college kids I know a kid at North Texas that spent an entire semester in his dorm room and he never came out. He texted his parents that everything was fine. Once a week, he took all of his classes online and DoorDashed all of his food. And on top of that, by the way, we weren't raised in a generation of instantaneous judgment, cancel culture, and information that the digital age has brought to our kids. And if you think it's not affecting them, affecting all of us, I mean, this is real. But the other end of that is, look at me, the sky is not falling. God's not wondering, what in the world are we going to do? Heaven only makes plans. Right? And you have everything you need to become everything God called you to be. Everything is available to you. But if you do what everybody else does, do not be surprised when you get what everybody else gets. Like, the standard is not other kids' families. You have a different standard. You're not better, but you're called to something different. And if we live and give in to things that other people, what the standards they're living by and the patterns that they're living in their lives, we're not going to get something different. Are y'all with me? Right? And I'm just like, I'm getting too old. Micah hates this, but like, I'm the grumpy grandpa. Like, I got this shot with you, and I'm just going to talk to you like you're my kids. I've had women walk up to me and tell me, oh, I tried that and it didn't work. What do you mean? Well, they didn't like it. Who gives a rip if they like it? When did that become the goal? Like, if you have a middle or high school kid and they're not rolling their eyes from time to time, you're doing it wrong. Right? Like, when did we displace all of this, that our goal as a parent is not for them to like it, it's for us to consistently apply it. Believing that when we cast our bread upon the water, it will not return to us void. Right? Are y'all with me? Can you tell I feel kind of strongly about this? What I'm going to ask you to do tonight is to begin to create a new culture in your home. And that means this: it's going to take longer than you think, and it's going to be harder than you think. You don't build that overnight. In fact, if your pastor ever lets me come back, I'll show you from Scripture and from research what we know about real change, lasting change. And I'll give you a hint. It always takes longer than you think, and it's always harder than you think. And so, like, when it comes to your kids, the only way I know to say this is, like, your job is to outlast those suckers. Right? At some point, how culture is built when a child understands that this is what our family does. This is how we operate. I'm not asking you to be heavy-handed. I'm asking you to be resolute. Hey, dads, look at me. I'm asking you that when you come home on Wednesday, and it's beat the dog out of you 3 days of earning a living for your family and fighting challenges, and you got 2 more days of more mountains to climb, that before you get out of your car, in your driveway, you stop and you ask God to fill you with His Holy Spirit and let you be fully present for the next 2 hours with your kids. You can't afford to check out in today's world. You understand? Kids are presented in today's world with options that we never understood as options. 4th graders know the word suicidal ideation, and I didn't learn it until about 4 years ago. That's the world we live in. But you have everything you need to not only survive, but to thrive in today's culture if you'll decide to do it God's way. I believe that with all my heart. Do you? So let's see, who do we have here? Let's start with, who do I have here that's not a parent or a grandparent? Where are you? Okay? I'm so proud of you guys for being here. All the things I talk about tonight that parents need to do with kids, you need to do for yourself. You just need to lead yourself through this process, and it's going to help you. I promise you it will help you. How many of you are parents of preschoolers? Preschoolers are younger. How many of you? Hey, y'all get a nap again one day. It's coming, just not today. It's not today. How many elementary school? How many tired elementary school? Look at all these elementary. They can't hardly get their hands up. You're wondering when your kid is going to shut up and quit talking all the time. Well, where's my middle and high school parents? Elementary parents, look at these guys. It's going to happen. They're 16. They ain't talking to you again until they're about 21. That's what's happening. Right? So where are my grandparents? Come on, somebody. Yes. Come on, let's give it up for the grandparents. Hey, grandparents. I'm about to release a course that we're filming right now. Let me give you a hint, just a word for you. You never stop being a parent, but if you don't change the way you parent, you lose your platform to have influence with your kids. You are not a coach anymore. You don't get to call the plays. You're a consultant. You know what a consultant does? It gives wisdom when asked, and it doesn't own whether the client takes the wisdom or not. Right? You're supposed to keep your mouth shut and the welcome mat out front. That's our job. Right? Is that not the hardest job on the planet? Hey, grandparents, look at me. We have wisdom. Wisdom is not intelligence. Wisdom is dumb tax that we paid over the years. We did something that hurt, and we want to say to our kids, don't do that. Right? But can I tell you something? Because I'm giving you a quick one on this. How did you learn? You learned through pain. Pauline theology, which is just a big theological word for the writing of Paul, will tell you in the New Testament, the only way humans really learn is through pain. If you try to convince your kid not to do something, hold conditions on your adult child's, over his head about, if you do that, I'm going to do this, you are robbing him of the chance to learn. Because pain is what's going to teach him. That's not your job anymore. You with me? Like I've been a parent at every stage. It's never been as hard as this stage for me. I got set free when I discovered that I don't have to say everything I'm thinking. You don't tell your kids when they're making a dumb decision? No, I go complain about them to my friends like they used to do with me. That's how you get through it, right? But we have a role to play. When we do that, then we get a platform with our kids to begin to speak truth and to build the kind of relationship that we've always dreamed of with our kids. So we all have a part to play in this. So I'm going to take you over the next few minutes through what I call like a Reader's Digest condensed version of a 2-hour presentation that we do about parenting. I'm gonna give you the guts of it. So like if you are one of those people that we skip a page in your workbook and it freaks you out, just take a deep breath. I'm gonna let you practice not being anxious about anything, okay? And stay with me. Everything we do is built around the 3 principles that I told you guys this morning at Goby. We can do hard things because God is with us. Keep your eyes on the sun, and we help others along the way. So the tools that we release, the exercises that we give families, all fall under one of those 3 categories. And what we encourage you in, and this will make sense later, is we encourage you to be balanced in all 3 of those things. In other words, if you take a month and use a tool around the concept of we can do hard things because God is with us, then we make sure that we're also, the next month, we're going to pick one of those other topics to pull the tool out from. Because we want, it's a balanced approach that we want to have with our kids. Does that make sense? Did I mention this is going to be harder than you think and take longer than you think? We have to focus on progress and not perfection. Talked to a sweet girl about this morning. And I talk to people about this everywhere I go. The only reason I sign books, and yes, I will sign books out there, is because I like to talk to y'all. I like to have conversations. And I talked to this girl this morning who's having a hard time, struggling. I said, but look at you, you're here. Like sometimes a win when it comes to your mental health is just getting up off the couch and doing something, even if you can't do it. You got to learn how to play scared and play hurt. Right? Why? Because we're not victims. We can do hard things. But those are the 3 areas that we use. And what has to happen for us as parents, and I think for you as young adults, we have to become experts at being aware and assessing where our kids are in today's culture like we never have before. Like this is a balancing act that we have. We're not looking for a ghost behind every rock. We're not going to overreact, but we're not going to go, oh, kids will be kids today. Does that make sense to everybody? You can't afford to do that anymore. You can't assume that they're just going to work it out. You got to become a master investigator, and your job as a mom and a dad, or even yourself, if you're a young adult that's with us tonight, is you have to learn how to assess where you are on the mental health scale, right? You have to become really good at it. I have to constantly, because of what God has called me to do and the battle that I fight, I have to constantly be looking at the lights on my dashboard of my life. How am I responding in these issues? See, the reason I don't panic about panic is because I see it as when I begin to exhibit signs of anxiety or even have a panic attack, I just see it as the red light on my truck dashboard telling me, hey, the check engine light is on. What do you need to get back to? It's not going to kill me, right? I don't like it, but it's not going to kill me. And sometimes I beat the devil by just showing up when I don't feel like showing up. But when it happens, is an indicator. The last one that happened to me that I remember, a big episode happened a couple of summers ago, and my wife knew it, I knew it. We were in the car a couple hours later because I'd woken up in the morning, because usually my stuff happens at night. And she said, are you okay? And I said, I will be. And she said, how can I pray for you? And I said, baby, we've been doing this 25 years plus. You know how to pray for me? And she said, I do. And that was it. And we got back home, and she's praying for me, and I'm going back to some of these things I'm going to tell you today that I recommitted my life to them and began to do them again. And I woke up the next day and I was better than I was the day before. This is where you want to get, right? We have to teach our kids how to breathe through panic and anxiety. Teach them. Breathe in, breathe out. And as they're breathing and holding it for 1, 2, and out, and as they begin, that begins to, their body fills with oxygen many times, which is the beginning place of them calming their, now we can begin to talk to them about things as we breathe in. Okay, we're gonna breathe in all that God has for us, all of his love for us. Now we're gonna breathe out the fear we have about this. Y'all with me? So like you've got to be like a master investigator and not overreact when things happen in your kids' lives. When you see it once, you need to pay attention. When you see a pattern, you need to move in. That's very important. When you see what I'm about to tell you, some signs that you're looking for, when you see it once, it just happens. Every now and then. Does everybody just have a bad day every now and then? Right? But when you see a pattern of it, now you can't just assume it's going to get better. You have to move in. There was a woman in Washington State that I'm going to talk to you in a moment about what I think the biggest enemy is in mental health. And she, because of some questions we taught her to begin to ask her kids, she found out that her daughter, who was a middle schooler, had gone 8 school days eating lunch in the girls' bathroom by herself because the mean girls had kicked her away from the table. And she found it out because she was asking the kind of questions I wanted her to ask to be aware of where this girl was on the isolation scale. Can everybody understand? That's like a dangerous position for this little sweet girl to be in. It was time for her to move in, talk to administrators, talk to teachers, find out how in the world could her daughter slip through the cracks and do that for 8 days and do something about it. So it happens once. Sometimes your kid just wants to eat by themselves, right? You ever just want to be by yourself every now and then? That's okay. But when you see a pattern, you have to move in. So what are we looking for? What are we looking for as we become aware and begin to assess? Well, that's a great question. Let me tell you a couple of things that you want to be looking for. One is you want to be looking for signs of isolation in the lives of your kids. Like the enemy to your child's mental health is isolation. It's interesting that Ben said it a moment ago when he came up. Intuitively, he's learned. See, in isolation, that little voice that tells you you'll never be happy again, you're never going to be enough, everybody hates me. That little voice that in your ear, anybody know what I'm talking about? It gets louder and louder and louder and louder. You look at any tragedy that's happened in our nation where some kid has done something heinous, school shootings, it always happens in isolation. So how do I know if my kid's isolated? I'm constantly asking them about their friends. I want to know, hey man, how's Billy? How's Mary? Who'd you eat lunch with today? How'd that go? You want to regularly be asking these questions because you want to know who your kids are connected with, or if they're not connected with anyone. You don't want to assume they're just hanging out with their friends all the time. Because we're not very good, are we, when we're struggling? We tend to retreat a bit as adults. Think about your kids who aren't at a maturity level we're in developmentally. And they're not sure what to do, so they just isolate. And what happens? Those voices get louder and louder and louder. So we're going to be asking questions, relationship questions all the time. And here's the thing. Contextually, like it's different for every age group here. Like preschool kids and elementary age kids, they love when mom and dad ask them questions. My favorite are middle school girls. You're with them about 2 minutes, they're spilling the tea about everybody and everything. They are, man. They'll tell you anything about anything, even before you asked. High school kids, you got to be a little more sly, because if they think you're trying to press them for information, they'll just start shutting down. So you have to be smarter about it as your kids get older. But the thing is, again, did I mention we outlast those suckers? We don't take silence for an answer. That's not what we do in our home. In our home, we communicate things. We talk about things. So we want to look for signs of isolation. We want to look, studies tell us that we want to look for signs of fatigue in our kids. When I say fatigue, I'm not talking about, well, you have a 17-year-old boy who all he wants to do is lay on the couch and play video games. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a weariness of soul. A lot of, there just doesn't seem to be passionate about any aspect of life. And like if you catch yourself there, young adults, like, hey, wait, man, I don't really care about anything. I'm just kind of getting up and watching garbage TV and making it through the day. Like like that should be an alarm for you. But we have to watch for it in our kids. My grandson Gideon, that I talk about all the time, his dad is a college football coach. He thinks, he's 8 years old. He's convinced he's an offensive lineman. That's what he thinks he is. Because he hangs out with these kids all the time. So his whole world is football until baseball season. Then his whole world is baseball until basketball, right? I'm talking about a kid who liked to paint, and you notice that your 6-year-old never picks up the paintbrushes or asks you to paint anymore. I'm talking about a kid who likes dance and doesn't want to go to dance class anymore, and it was their whole world forever. Like when you see that kind of pattern happening, there's nothing they're really interested in, kind of fatigue about life. It's time for you to step in and begin to ask some questions. I was with, where was I? North Carolina, I think I was. Yeah, Chapel Hill. And I was doing a student event, and there were a bunch of middle school girls there. And I knew when it was over what was going to happen. They're kind of lined up to talk to me. They move in herds, right? So there was a herd of them. And this one girl, I said, how are you? Which is a great starter for a middle school girl because she'll go for 30 minutes. And she started telling me about how she used to love to dance, to go to dance class. And I said, what do you mean you used to? Well, my mom's shift changed. And so I don't get to go anymore. So again, because I've done this for so long, I just sit there. So what do you do instead? Like if you came home from school and your mom took you to dance and you come home by yourself now, what do you do? She goes, well, honestly, I'm just so emotionally drained from the day. I just lay on my bed and scroll through social media till mom gets home. And she doesn't know. And again, because our job is not to solve our kids' issues, our job is to help them, equip them to solve their issues. I said to her, well, how does that make you feel? She goes, it makes me feel worse, not better. And we started talking about, so what are some things you could do? Like, were there some particular dance classes and moves you were learning that you like? Could you take 50 minutes when you came home and do this instead of laying down in your bed? Before you lay down in your bed, could you go outside and do this and practice this on your own? And then could we talk to mom maybe about another time, right? See, I wasn't asking her to make this huge swing. I was asking her to make a small shift in her life, which we'll get to in a moment. But you need to understand, real change happens in small things done over time, not the big swings. Most of the time we don't see change because we try to swing too far. Right? Are you with me? Like if you really got serious about, if there's anybody here who, like, I really care. I need a healthier lifestyle. I need to eat better. If that's what your thing, like the wrong thing to do is to say, I'm never eating sugar or meat ever again. I'm just eating vegetables. Because you do that about 4 days and then you're going to go buy, triple layer chocolate cake and a filet mignon. Because it's a huge swing. What they say is take one thing out of your diet for a week and try it and see how you feel, right? It's small things. Like, we all want to microwave this process. God is not a microwave. He's a crock pot. That's what he is. It's small things done over time that produces change. That's why I taught this girl that. So when you talk about isolation, or you talk about signs of withdrawal, or you talk about fatigue, we're asking our kids these questions regularly. We're asking ourselves these questions regularly to kind of gauge where we are on the mental health scale. This takes intentionality. We have to be willing to stop and ask ourselves questions. right? And I know what you're thinking. As I talk about this, you parents are thinking, how in the world am I going to do this? Our world's so full. I'm just a shuttle bus right now. You know, we just go from practice to practice or event to event. Or both of us are working outside the home if you're a married couple. And I know what you're thinking. I don't have time for all this. I'm not asking you to do something additional. I'm asking you to take some things you're already doing and change the way you do them. You know, when Uvalde happened a few years ago, we all know here in Texas that when it left the national headlines, it stayed in our headlines here. And as school was preparing to go back in the next year, all the major news networks, the networks that are based, the regional ones, based in Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, they started calling my office about would I come on their talk shows and talk about preparing your kids to go back to school, right? I know none of you, if any of you work in the media, I know you're not like this, but like my experience with the media had not been very good in the past. I know y'all would never do this if you are in the media, if you know somebody in the media, but media that I've worked with have always had an agenda. They're always trying to edit and take me places I didn't want to go. And so I hired an outside firm, a PR firm, to help me prepare for these interviews. And the first one I did was in San Antonio. And I remember the first question they asked me, I had pages of notes and spent thousands of dollars in research and putting this together. They said, what do you think the number one thing is for our kids to go back to school? And I said something that was on none of those pages that I had paid thousands of dollars for. And I said, I think we have to recapture the power of the dinner table. And she said, what do you mean? And I just told her what I meant. And I said, most people, when I say we need to recapture the power of the dinner table, they react negatively because they think they don't have time to cook a roasted potatoes and an apple cobbler for once a week with their families. I don't care if it's Domino's Pizza or Chicken E or Sonic. I don't give a rip what it is you're eating. I'm talking about families have got to get back to setting aside a night as holy. And the TV's off, the phones, everybody's phone goes in a basket, and we're going to have a conversation as a family. Come on, can I get a witness from anybody? Amen. Like, this has got to happen, man. Sure. Right? Like, we are well-intentioned, busy people, which means we all go, yeah, we need to start doing that. And then life happens and we don't do it. And we get surprised when our kids get in trouble with their mental health because we didn't notice, because we weren't consistently connecting with them. It's not because we're bad parents. It's just we're busy people. And so my daughter, who is 30-something. How old is she, baby? She's 36. I said she was 38 the other day and I almost got killed. And my daughter-in-law, Michelle, who illustrated the Toby the Goby book, who's 32, they both, one of them, my daughter has 3 kids, 8 and under, 8 down to 4. And Michelle, my daughter-in-law, they have 2 girls who are 8 and, I don't know, 5 or something. Oh, is that it, baby? Yeah, I don't get their names right all the time, but I love them. So they are my target market when it comes to what we do with Goby, because it works for everybody, but we target moms of elementary age kids, right? Because we think it hits the whole spectrum. And they're the ones who are saying to me, I said, when we first started talking about this has to happen once a week. They said, that's stupid. We can't do once a week. If you tell us we have to do once a week, we won't consistently do it. So I negotiated with them, and we decided this has to happen twice a month. That there has to be a taking back of the table, a family dinner twice a month. How many of you, raise your hand if you reasonably could do a family meal twice a month? Raise your hand. So everybody here says we could do that, right? Again, change happens with small shifts along the way. You have to pick at least twice a month. I don't care what day, night of the week it is, Sunday lunch, I don't care when it is. But there has to be a discussion around the table. And look, they can't know it, but the purpose of the meal is for you to be aware and to assess where your child is on their mental health journey. Right? So what are we going to do at the table? Well, that's a great question. I'm going to help you. One of the things you're going to do is you're always going to ask what we call high-low questions. High-low questions. I have done this in my family. It is page 7. I have done this in our family for years. We've done it in a variety of settings. I used to do it with my church staff. During the pandemic, we had, Cody, 55 or so on our staff. And so I got 3 pages of Zoom, and I would say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 4, on 3, we're all going to hold up fingers. Hold up 1 finger if you're doing terrible. Hold up 4 fingers if you're doing really great, or whatever it is in between. On 3, everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. And everybody would hold up till I could see all the fingers how everybody was doing. And it was a great way for us to know that if we have somebody who 2 weeks in a row said, I'm a 1, it's time for us to check on them. I wasn't looking for an event. I was looking for a pattern. We want to do this with our kids. Whatever works in your context for your age child, here's what you're trying to get at. What's the best thing that you're most excited about in life, and what's the thing that's keeping you up at night that you're the most worried about? We always want to ask high-low questions. Well, what if my kid won't talk? Well, I don't care if you punish them or bribe them, but everybody's going to talk around the table. That's the culture you're going to build. Come on, man. Where's some of my generation? Where's your grandparents? I mean, how many of you have mamas who said, I don't give a rip what you do. You ain't get for this table. Do you eat this spinach that I heated up out of a can? You're going to eat it. Mom, it tastes like disease. I don't care. Throw it up if you want to, but you're going to get up off the floor and eat it before you get up from the table. And one night I sat there. I'm not making this up. We ate dinner like 6. I sat there till 9:15. Like she wasn't heavy-handed, just resolute. Oh no, you're going to eat it. You are not getting up from this table until you've eaten this, right? Like you just outlast them. So when you begin, I don't care if you bribe them with an award because they participated, or you punish them if they say I'm not playing. Well, what if they don't play? You're the parent. Be the parent. Again, you don't have to be a horse's rear end. You just have to be resolute. And you have to say, this is what we do. And y'all have to be together. You can't play good cop, bad cop in this deal. We got to be bad cops together. This isn't, we're going to do whatever your mother says. It's like, no, look at me. We're doing this. You're not getting up until we do this. And sometimes that has to be your job. But we do it together. That's how you build culture, right? Like when my dad said, pick up the dishes, when we got through with dinner, like I didn't go, I wonder if I'll listen to him or not. Like in our culture, you listen to Dad. I never woke up and wonder if I got to go to school today. And by the way, I know I'm preaching the choir tonight, but I never got up and wondered if I was going to church on Sunday, depending on the weather or what time the football team was playing. That's what you do. Well, I want my kids to resent church. Well, you're going to take that advice with the doctor? Well, I'm not taking my kid to the doctor. He didn't want to go. I don't want to resent the doctor. He's sick. Take him to the doctor. Get him what he needs, not what he wants. Y'all with me? Like, we got to bow our necks a little bit as parents and get a little tougher. Right? Again, not heavy-handed, but tough and resolute. This is what we do. So everything that I'm going to share with you at Goby is built around let's take back the table. And what's going to happen at the table is there's going to be high-low questions, and then the tool that I give you, everybody's going to report back on the tool for the week, and that will make sense in a moment. Y'all with me? And so the question you're asking me is, well, how do I get them to talk? How do we start the conversation? Who's the leader? Just say I am. That makes me feel better. I am. Leaders go first. Right? The way you do it is you model it. You go first. You don't go, okay, we're going to go around the table and everybody's going to talk about the thing they're most excited about. Billy, you're first. And when they get through, it comes back to you. You start with you. And when you get to what's the biggest challenge in your life, it starts with you. This is a question I get everywhere. I know what you're thinking. I see the little bubbles over your heads. What's an appropriate level of challenge for me to share with my child? And the answer, quite honestly, is more than you're doing right now. I'm going to let you in a little secret. Kids become what they see, not what you say. Do you understand this? We had a StarCraft pop-up trailer that we drug all over the country when I was a kid. If I reject the grace of God, he is going to say, depart from me. I never knew you get in a StarCraft pop-up tent for the rest of your life. We drug it all over the country, and we usually got home at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning from these trips. You know what my dad's rule was? Everything gets put up before anybody goes to bed. I'm 16. The biggest knockdown drag I remember in my early teenage years was I told him that was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard of when I was about 16. That's dumb, Dad. Why are we doing that? You know? And after I ducked, he said, this is what we do, right? I'm 60 years old. In the last 15 and a half months, Mike and I have flown 400,000 miles around this country. That's a lot of miles. We usually get home late at night. I cannot sit down when we get home until my suitcase is completely empty, everything's put away, and it's back in the closet. I can't sit down. Why? Because that's what I saw all those years. I have become my father. For good and for bad, you become what you see. So, if you're not modeling, sharing your struggles around the table, do not be surprised that when your 16-year-old has a struggle or makes a mistake, if you are the last person to find out about it. Because they don't have a picture that says, hey, in our home, we share here. This is the first place we go. This is a safe place to share your struggles. Now, listen, I told Cody this last night. I'm a genius in the rearview mirror. Y'all won't believe how smart I am looking back at my life. I'm kind of an idiot in the moment, but I'm a genius in the rearview mirror. And I backed into this because when I was diagnosed with this anxiety and panic disorder, and I went on this international Christian television show for a week talking about my struggles, I had no idea that I was going to become known as the anxiety guy. Who wants to be known as the anxiety guy? Told one of the services today I wanted to be the blessed life guy. Be more fun. But I was starting to be asked to talk about this in lots of places. So I knew my kids were going to find out about it. So I was forced, before the first time I stood in front of our church and shared some of my story, like I wanted my kids not to hear it for the first time, Daddy on the stage. When I was first struggling, and I'm talking about like living in between appointments, struggling, non-functional struggling. Micah sat down with our kids who were like 10 and 8 and said, hey, Dad's a little sick right now. He's struggling with some stuff, and he's seeing a doctor to help him get better. And so if Dad's not at some stuff that we have, I want you to know it's not because he doesn't care about us. He just knows that him being healthy is the best thing he can do for our family. I thought it was incredible wisdom. Only she, who has a direct line, Holy Spirit has led her. I've watched in amazement the wisdom that she has from above. And she's told our kids that, right? And I sat down with our kids before I stood up and said, hey, here's some stuff Daddy's going to talk about. And I don't want you to be alarmed. I'm doing okay. By the time my oldest was 15, she was laying hands on me and praying for me in times when I was struggling. And I know what you're thinking. What you're thinking is, your fear is you don't want your kids to think less of you. Right? I mean, nobody wants to say it, but the two greatest fears you have is, number one, your kids won't like you. And number two, your kids will think less of you. And all I can tell you is when my daughter married this hairy-legged boy who was a very accomplished college football player who wanted to be a college coach, and to be a college coach, every college coach starts in a job called a graduate assistant. because they don't want to call them indentured servants, because they work 16 hours a day for nothing, and they lived in a state, in a city they had never been to before, in a one-bedroom apartment. They knew not a soul. He was working 16 hours a day, and she wasn't going to start teaching school for another month and a half. She started having panic attacks, and who do you think the first person she called was? She called her daddy. And she works full-time in our ministry, has been the frontline communicator with Ben and the team about this weekend. My son, who is 34 years old, is in the final stage of getting his licensed professional counseling master's degree, works for our ministry. Listen, my kids don't think less of me. They think more of me because I was willing to share. And we built something in our home by accident, because I'm a genius in the rearview mirror, that says when you're struggling, the first place you go is you go to your home. That's what you want. Isn't that what everybody wants? And it will never happen if you're not willing to share your struggles in an age-appropriate way. If you're about to lose your job, you don't tell your kid, well, I'm worried about losing my job. You don't tell a 6-year-old that. But you do say, hey, man, it's tough at work. Let's be praying about me at work. Y'all with me? We start modeling this early. The problem is you want to be your kid's hero, and God's a better hero than you. You're not supposed to be the hero. God's supposed to be the hero. Right? And so be willing to appropriately share with your kids at some level, because you're building a model for them of, in our home, what we do is this is the safest place on the planet for you to share not simply your victories, but your struggles. And by the way, if you're a young adult and you're out of your home, and you don't have to lament that this never happened, you create this kind of environment in a community of faith of other people that are helping you on the journey. You don't get satisfied with conversations about Taylor Swift and the Dallas Cowboys. Like, you want to get down to a place where somebody is full, like you were created to be fully known and fully loved, and you're terrified at some level that if you're fully known, you won't be fully loved. But you can't be fully loved unless you're fully known. So the only way to do it is to tell the truth about where you are, not where you want to be, and break that tension off of your life. It's the healthiest way to live. That's a sermon. That's extra. That was free. Y'all with me on this? This is what we have to teach our kids. And then the moment's going to come. It's coming, I promise you. If you do this and build this culture, your kids, either at the table or taking one of you aside, are going to test the waters by sharing something with you that's either a challenge or a concern in their life. Everything you've done to this moment has been building up to this moment. And most of us were not adequately equipped to handle that moment. We call it, you have to learn how to validate before you prescribe. Okay? What does that mean? Well, I'm glad you asked. Validate before you... Well, let me ask, how many husbands in here? Raise your hand if you're a husband. Okay, keep your hand up if you've ever had your wife tell you some problem she had, and before she finished, you broke in and gave her 3 steps she ought to do to solve it. How many of us have ever done that? Tell the truth. Keep your hand up if you've done it. Don't lie or liar. Your trousers are aflame. Did that go well for any of you guys? No. Ladies, what did you tell him? I don't need you to solve it. I just need you to listen. Now, listen, ladies, I don't know your world, but I know ours. Let me tell you, everything within us was created in our DNA. We were created to kind of solve problems. That's what we do in life, right? We solve problems. Our job is about solving a problem. If we can't solve a problem, why do they need us, right? Our job, at some level, is about... So, our intention is good. We want to solve problems for you because we love you. But look at me, ladies. We're idiots. We don't understand that what we're saying to you is, if you were as smart as me, you would do these 3 things, and it would be fixed, and it wouldn't be a problem, and we wouldn't have to have this conversation. We could go eat fried chicken. That's what you're hearing. And I know what some of you men are going, well, I didn't intend that. I don't give a rip what you intended. Intentions do not matter. Actions matter. Right? If I came down and slapped you in the face right now and said, oh, I didn't intend to do that, your face would still hurt. You with me? What do your wives wanting? They're wanting you to be with them. When our kids share a challenge with us and we start telling them, break in and tell them, well, here's the things you do, son. Here's the thing you do, dear. Just do these 3 things. What we're saying to them is if you were smart as us, you wouldn't have this issue. You know why I didn't talk to my dad about being fearful that I was going to drown when I was 7? Because my dad would tell me I was silly. Oh, son, that's silly. Don't think like it. I already felt stupid. I didn't need him to confirm it. You don't, like when you start prescribing before you validate, you cut off the opportunity for you to have the platform to receive truth from your kids. They will do what I did when I was 7. They just will withdraw from you at some level. They're testing the waters. And if you validate, guess what? They're going to trust you, and they're going to take deeper chances to talk to you about challenges in their life. What do you mean validate? Well, Mike and I used to go to parenting seminars all the time. My kids were little, and I'll never forget these 2 professors that traveled the country doing these parenting seminars always used the same analogy. They said, hey, if you have a kid who wakes up in the middle of the night and comes and taps you in your bed and wakes you up and says, I'm scared, there's a monster in my bed, I need to sleep with you. They would say, what's the worst thing you could do? And Michael would lean over and say, tell them that you're going to spank their bottom if they don't get back in bed, which is what I did because I wanted to go back to sleep. And they would say, that's the worst thing you do. What's the best thing you do? They told us, go in their room, turn the light on, pull back the blanket, the duvet cover, whatever your wife bought from Bed Bath & Beyond when you weren't looking, pull it up and show them there's nothing for them to be afraid of. We were taught that's what Jesus did. Anytime he said, don't be afraid, he gave you a reason not to be afraid. And that's better than I'm going to spank your bottom, right? But you want to know what's best? Anybody want to know? Well, thank you, sir, that you want to know. Well, let me just ask you, have you ever lost sleep worrying about something that never happened? Anybody in here ever lost sleep worrying about something that never happened? Well, tell your kids that. Tell them this. Hey, me too. I know what it's like to be scared or worried about something that may or may not be real. And then tell them how God helped you. Look, man, the world out there, the anti-faith world, I'm not talking about like the ambivalent, I'm talking about the anti-faith world. They already took they've taken some of our best stuff. And they've taken one of the greatest phrases in the New Testament, which is me too. There's nothing more powerful than looking at your kid and saying, I know what that feels like. I've been there too. It validates them. It validates their pain. And then when you point them to how God helped you, here's a verse that helped me. Here's something I prayed. Here's a song that helps me. And you connect them to God in the middle of it, God gets bigger and bigger in their life. Right? So we want to validate their pain before we prescribe. We want to say, hey, I get what that feels like. And then I'm just going to just say it. I know we got a mixed group in here tonight, but I'm just saying it. Grumpy Grandpa, look, when you do this with your 8-year-old son, when he messes up and looks at porn when he's 17, you're going to be one of the first people he comes to, not the last, to break that shame off of him. Right? Like we do it in little things when they're young, so when they get bigger and the big things come that can destroy their lives, we're the first place they want to go. And we're equipping them. We don't have to have all the answers. We just have to know the one that does. Right? We point them to Jesus. He becomes real. So everything we do at Goby, everything that I spend every waking hour that I'm not traveling, and sometimes when I'm traveling doing, is building tools that connect kids to God's power in the middle of these struggles. I believe revival could come in our nation through this Chicago fire of mental health. Why? Because nothing the world's offering is working. And if we become known as, if River Valley becomes known in Bastrop County as the place to go to get real help when you're struggling with anxiety, depression, or mental health battles, you can't build enough seats for the number of people who are going to be in this place. You'll change high schools and universities. They will come out of the woodwork. People are desperate for this. But it starts in your home with your kids. Who's with me? Like, you can do this. So on page 7 of your workbook, I've given you questions. You can start with the high lows. And everything else I'm going to talk to you about is about that you want to provide, like you're constantly providing your kids with tools that speak life, right? That teach them. I am trying to connect for you biblical principles that are now, by the way, being proven by scientific research. Do you know that there is a direct connection? Scientists are now reporting. I read these studies and go, how much do you pay for this, dude? Just read the Bible. Like, there's one study out there that says direct connection between your level of gratitude and your mental health. Oh, really? That's why the Bible says that you ought to be grateful. But, like, are your kids grateful? Mine weren't. You have to build that culture into your home. Like, you are not going to be grateful on your own. You have to practice it. I got convicted. My kids, I took them to Six Flags when we moved back to Texas from Oklahoma. I was bribing them because I took them out of their house and everything and came back to Texas, and you could get passes, season passes for half price. And I took them out there and I said, Mike, I'm practicing to be a grandpa. This was 20 years ago. This is going to be the land of yes today. Whatever they want, they can have. And dude, they tested me, you know. I don't know how many pink things and corn dogs and trinkets we bought. And I was the greatest dad on the planet until we were walking out that night at like 9:30, and they wanted one of those neon necklaces. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Cost 70 cents to make, and they're selling them for $17.99. And my kids had to have one. I said, hey, dude, I'm out of money. Like, we spent the gross national product of several Latin American countries today here. And we got in the car, and all the way home, all I got was whining how terrible it was that I didn't buy them. And I pulled over the side of the road, and I took that thing in park, and I said, you ungrateful kids. And I started telling them all the things that I had given. We gave you this, and you got this, and you got this, and you got this. And all I hear about from you is what you didn't get. I will never take you back to Six Flags. Went home, they went to bed, didn't think much about it until 2 weeks later I had a board meeting that didn't go well at our church. And so I like to say I was praying, which is code for I was complaining to God about what he needed to fix. You need to fix this guy and help this guy see this, and this is a challenge, and we don't have enough money to do this and help us do this. And you know what I heard the Lord say to me? Well, you ungrateful child. I've given you this and this. And I learned in that moment, where my kids learned to be ungrateful was for me. There was too much coming out of me about challenges I was facing, not gratitude for what he was giving me. Well, how do you change it? I changed it back then. I used a piece of notebook paper and decided a day was not going by that I wasn't going to write down something I was grateful for every day. Like, I had to intentionally build. Look, man, if I have a gift, it is to put the cookies on the lowest shelf for people, because that's the only thing that works for me. I don't need you to tell me I need to be more grateful. I need you to tell me how tomorrow I can start moving toward gratitude. And how it is every day you write down something you're grateful for. And one of the tools that we have for your family is a PDF that you print off, and you put a chart up on your refrigerator, and for a week or for a month, however you want to do it, every day people have to write down something they're grateful for. And at the table, once you've done the high lows, everybody has to go around and pick one of the things they were grateful for and tell everybody for 2 minutes why that matters so much to them. That's how you build a culture of gratitude, and it won't happen one night. It'll happen over years. Y'all with me? So you have to do it. You have to start doing it. And you go, well, that's simple. Hey, listen, simple doesn't mean shallow. It means simple. Jesus was the simplest teacher on the planet, except for the parables where he's trying to hold his cards close to his chest. Most of his teaching was, hey, look, there's a bird. Have you ever thought about birds? Like, a bird doesn't worry about where he's going to get his food. Why don't you worry about where you're going to eat? Hey, look at these flowers. Hey, let me tell you something about a fig tree. Jesus taught simple does not mean shallow. It means simple. It's something you can put your hands around and do. Like the way you use the 40 IMs that I talked to you about this morning is you take the 40 IMs, you let your kids pick one. If they're little, they color the picture of it. If they're in middle or high school, they write it on a sticky note, put it on their bathroom mirror, you put it on your bathroom mirror, and once a day you check in and you say it to each other. And then at the table, you talk about why it was hard or easy for you to believe that to be true about yourself that week. You go, that's it? That's it. And I don't care if you bribe them or you punish them. Everybody's going to share, and we're going to do it every day. And some of you drive your kids to school, and that's the place you're going to take 2 or 3 minutes, and we're going to say it to each other. And some of your kids drive on their own before they go to bed. They have to come to you and say it to you. And you have to say it to them. And you start connecting, like you start building this culture. It won't happen. It will be terrible at first. The first family dinner you have will not go the way you want it to go. Mike and I used to do family devotionals. My kids, when they were little, we got to do these. My kids never went, Dad, you are such a great communicator of the gospel. Could you talk a little longer? Mom, could we sing one more song? It was like just chaos. Guess what? We just kept doing it and outlasted those suckers. That's what you do. They didn't have to like it. You just consistently do. Y'all with me on this? And I'm telling you right now, if you do a gratitude chart, and if you take a 40 IM, and I'm telling you, I promise you, if you will commit to 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week, we're going to do this. I promise you, in 30 days, you will begin to see progress in your child's mental health. And by the way, now you have something to discipline back to correct back to readjust and recalibrate your life back to, that's not just the latest thing on TikTok. It's like something that has stood the test of time. It's God's truth in your life. Is this making sense to everybody? Like, I'm working hard up here. I don't care if you like me. I just want to know if this is helping you. Does this make sense to you? Like, the thing is, I'm watching the clock, baby, because she's the clock marshal back there. Sometimes you will never know until your kids are adults, young adults, how these things made a difference in their life. But you have to trust the process. Some of you have 6-year-olds. Our little middle grandson named Micah. He screams at his mom, I don't want to be a conqueror. And I said, hey, Bailey, look in the mirror and tell yourself, job well done. You've done your job, because his response is a response that's based upon something you've been trying to teach him. It's getting down in the DNA of who he is. Like, you can do these things. One of the things that we don't understand about pain is the problem with pain is not that it hurts. The problem with pain is it makes you a narcissist. Like, I love that woman. I'm telling you, I get teary-eyed. I am so blessed. 39 years with that woman. Like, I'm fighting a little medical thing right now, and when it hurts bad, I don't really care about her. I just want it to stop hurting. Like, the whole world becomes about me. The problem for many of us that are hurting is our whole world's become about us. And yet studies say that people who are focused outside of themselves have better mental health than those who are focused internally. I wonder how much that study cost. Jesus said it's better to give than it is to receive. The reason God's blessing River Valley is because your leaders are committed to not simply you, but to those that don't know Jesus yet. Right? So how do you build that in your kids? You decide that once a quarter you're going to do something as a family for somebody else. You don't wait till the Christmas season when everybody's doing it. You build something in your family of this is what we do. One of the things that I've given people to do that works is, as you're doing your highs and lows around your table with your kids, and they're telling you about school and friends, and one of the friends, he lost his grandma and it's been tough for him, whatever, then man, your kid's going to draw a little picture if they're little, or they're going to write a note, and y'all are going to put them in envelopes and stamp them and put them in the mail right then. And you just do that like once every 2 or 3 months, and you start building your kids, hey, our family is about helping other people. That's what we do. And if you make cookies, every time you make them, you make a dozen for somebody else, and you take your kid with you and deliver them. You don't have to go be a missionary in Nairobi. Quit trying to make this shift and start making little shifts. And trust the process. Any of you ever start a health program, physical health program, you start running? Anybody ever start running? How it started, let me tell you how it started because I've done it. You can't go near as far as you think you can go. I told my wife, I go, how am I run with Andy, my friend? And she goes, you're not a runner. I go, I know, I'm just going to jog a mile. I got out there, got halfway around the track. I had gunmetal taste in the back of my mouth. My lungs are burning, and I'm seeing a vision of the Virgin Mary, and I ain't Catholic. That's a problem. It was one of the most humiliating things of my life. The only thing worse than that Monday we did that was how I felt Wednesday morning when I got up knowing I'd only jogged half a lap. My leg, I couldn't even walk. What's wrong with me? Hey, guess what, guys? 11 months later, I ran 26.2 miles. Why? Because I trusted the process. It was a little bit at a time. A little bit, and then you add a little bit, and then you add a little bit, and you can add, and I'm going to tell you something, if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's the little things done over time that change your life. Are you hearing me? And the best time to have started is when your kids were 1. And the second best time is tomorrow. Quit using your energy regretting the stuff you should have done in the past and give that energy to starting tomorrow. If you're married, say to your mate in the car on the way home, when are we scheduling this? Let's get it on the calendar, our dinner. When are we taking back the table? When are we doing it? If it's a bunch of you, next generation, young leaders, when are we going to get together and have a little small group discussion about where we are in life and have a real talk and start praying for each other? I am believing that we can turn this tide. And I'm just asking, prove me wrong. Go try it for a month. What do you got to lose? I'm asking for 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and 2 meals that you're already eating. Right? What's stopping you? Look, man, the dream God has given me is so much bigger. Every tool out there, I told you the story of Not Yet. I told you the story of Toby the Goby. The workbooks that we have, the journals we call them that we have there, just people ask me for them. They wanted a Bible study to do with their kids. So we took the 40 I Ams and made a daily journal so a mom and daddy could be doing it and a kid could be doing it together. I know it'll work. It'll help you. The biggest thing that I have been asked for is, hey, can I get your cell number? I just want to text you. I have a couple of questions. Is your email address on the website? Look, man, when I was 40, I'd have given it to all of y'all. I'm just not dumb anymore. I got wisdom dumb tax. What I do is I got a heart want to help everybody. So my answer is yes. And then, like, there's 100,000 of you around the country. I can't do that. And I started getting, like, really frustrated about it. Like, I want to come to y'all's little group. I can't. So we went in, hired some really smart people, and went into some studios, and I decided that I was going to commit to building something that I could help you along the way in this journey. And I just used my kids as an example. I thought, what do my kids need as young parents? And I said, well, one of the things they need is they need to be encouraged. Anybody here not like encouragement? Like just somebody telling you can do it, I believe in you, praying for you this week. I have 24 young pastors that every Sunday individually they get a text from me saying, hey, I believe in you, praying for you, you're going to do awesome today. Why? Because I never had anybody that believed in me. And one day when I die, I want them sitting out there saying he was the most encouraging guy on the planet. But I get busy, so I had to use notes and reminders to do it. You need weekly encouragement from somebody. I want to give you a tool every month you could use. And by the way, I want to teach you how to use it because I'm not assuming that you are filled with confidence about how to do this with your kids. Like the 40 IMs, I went in and made 40 one-minute videos. I'll just show you a piece of this one little video right quick that we made. Here's today's 40 IM. Repeat after me. I am a child of the King. Let's say it together. Okay, stop. I can't watch any more myself, but it goes on. Think about this. If your dad... No, really. No. This is a little... Well, I made it, and y'all see how it's this kind of video? It's because it works on your phone, that you can have your kid watch it. You go, well, I could do it better than that. Okay, do it with your kid. But you watch it and let it give you an idea how to do it with your kid. But I'm trying to make it easy. I can't. You can just sit there and go, hey, we're going to watch this together of whatever 40 I am. I made 40 of them in a studio. And I have tools like that for you every month with a video on how to use it. And then I wanted to have an opportunity for people all over the country, at least online, to talk to each other because I think y'all can help each other more than you think you can. It started when I was in an event in Branson, Missouri, and a guy asked me a question about foster care and dealing with foster kids. And I said, that's a great question. Has anybody here had that experience? And a guy over here raised his hand and said, I had that exact experience. And they exchanged numbers and started talking to each other. And I thought, that's my win. So I want to give you a chance a month to connect with others. And then once a quarter, I want to give you a class, a more robust teaching to help you be the very best you could be emotionally speaking, right? And so what we did was we did this thing called Team Goby, which is a subscription service where you get a weekly encouragement, a monthly tool, a monthly webinar, we call it Team Goby, and a quarterly class. I'm putting the finishing touches on the class we're about to release. It's Goby Grandparenting. It's for parents of adult kids. Teaching you some principles about how we parent when our kids are adults, because it has to be different, right? But I just released one called How to Pray for Your Kid. And I got this idea from my daughter who said, you just gave me like 4 things I could pray in a little prayer. Teach me that I'm going to pray every day this summer for my kids. How do you do it? So we did, again, we're about cookies on the lowest shelf, right? Practical, simple ways you can help your kids. This whole thing that we put together, the reason we charge for it, because I try to give so much of this stuff away, is because I want to keep doing it for thousands of people around the country. And so for you, because you're here, we're offering it to you for $10 a month for the first 6 months, half of what we charge on the internet, as a gift to you for you being a part of what we do here. Look at me, everybody. I'm not a salesman. I'm shooting my best shot to help you in the months ahead. This is the best I can do, which I think is really good, practical ways you can start improving in your mental health. And I don't want this to be an event that I go home and you just get on to the next thing. So I'm telling you right now, you're going to get busy. And you're going to forget about what we're offering you. And I'm telling you, you need to sign up and be a part of what's happening, because we're getting reports back from people all over the country. Hey, this is really helping me step through this process. I'm starting to see progress in my family. And so we want to help you with it. Now, let me give you just a word from my heart and we'll be done. And I'm so glad some of you young adults are here to hear this tonight. Some of our kids are here. I really fought God when it came to me. I want you to hear my heart. People were asking me when Goby started, everything I was asked to do was with kids ministry. They wanted me to come to these events and talk to the kids people. I love kids ministry. I'm not a kids pastor. I've worked with adults for 40 years. I felt called to help adults. And I had done a course called How to Overcome Anxiety to help adults that I had spent thousands of dollars on to go get built in a studio that I wanted to get out to a bunch of adults. And I was like, Micah, I'm not a kids person. And then the end of 2021, December of 2021, Harvard came out with one of these wonderful studies that said this. You know what the number one indicator is of a child's mental wellness in America? The mental wellness of their parent or primary caregiver. And I finally understood why God was pushing me in this direction. Half of you would not be here tonight if this is for you. More than half of you, I bet. You'll be all right. You're all here because of your kids. I have an agenda. It's not hidden. Look at me. My agenda is you. The greatest gift you can give your kids is a mentally healthy you. Bar none. The greatest gift, if you own a company, that you can give your employees is a mentally healthy you. The greatest gift that this man right here can give to River Valley Church is a mentally healthy him. Like a part of stewarding what God has given you, and the reason I've designed these tools for you to do with your kids is because you need them. You need the 40 I Ams. You need gratitude in your life. You need to be serving other people. Being honest, like, your kids need pictures of what it means to be mentally healthy. And I'm like, I want to help your kids, but the greatest way I can help your kids is help you. You hear what I'm saying? Like, this is all about you. I'm just hiding it under helping your kids so you'll show up. I'm just being honest. During the pandemic, I started a cooking show called Cooking with Toby on the internet. Funny, smoking meat, and which ended up as feeding thousands of people on the weekends in the middle of the pandemic. And lots of people came to know Christ because they cared about smoking meat. And when we started having drive-thrus where we would give out the meat we had cooked to people in our community that couldn't afford food, when we opened their trunks to put it in, guess what we saw? Thousands of dollars worth of sporting equipment for their kids. Because people who couldn't afford their next meal made sure their kids had the very best, because we care about our kids. If you care about your kids, get serious about your mental health. Like, do these things with your kids and your grandkids because it will make you better. And understand, you are the picture of what it looks like for your kids. Like, self-care is soul care, and soul care is not selfish. Come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. In the Message version, it's, are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me and I'll show you how to really rest. I won't lay anything heavier or ill-fitting on you. I'll teach you how to live freely and lightly. I'll teach you the unforced rhythms of grace. Like, what's your unforced rhythm of grace? What is the thing that you practice that you breathe God's breath into you? Is it running? Like, I don't feel God till I quit running. Is it painting? Is it music? Whatever it is, you need to regularly give yourself to do it, because that's the greatest gift you can give your kid. You look in the mirror and you tell yourself, I am a child of the King. I am a conqueror. Why? Because you need to remember it in the world that God has called you to. Are you hearing me? You have everything you need to become everything your children need. And what they need is a Spirit-filled, Jesus-believing, mentally healthy mom and dad. That's what they need. And we need some grandparents who say, I'm going to get in a fight with them. I'm going to quit fighting my kids and start helping my kids. I'm going to get educated about mental health issues. I'm not going to put my past on their present. I'm going to go learn about their unique challenges and be the very best life speaker in the life of my grandkids. Like, we can turn this thing around together. I believe it with all my heart. We just got to do it differently. Who's with me? I believe in you. I believe in you. Let me pray for you. So, Father, I just thank you in Jesus' name for the way you want to start generationally changing things for people. I just hope that you would remind these people tonight as they lay down their heads that they can do hard things because, God, you're with them. Teach them how to keep their eyes on the sun and to help others along the way and to practice unforced rhythms of grace. And I pray that our next generation would be empowered by moms and dads and grandparents filled with your Spirit to be everything you've called them to be. And we thank you for it, Lord. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen. Thanks, everybody.